has been engaged in this. But we had 3 deliveries into sell side. So it's setting up a potential where we can get a intraday retracement. Even if it wants to keep going lower, it's fine. But you have to measure every single time we engage liquidity. If 3 times we go into sell side, or 3 times we attack 3 successive higher levels of buy side or 3 successive lowers of sell side, it opens and invites the opportunity for a retracement, for intermediate term retracement. It doesn't mean that you called the low of the day. It doesn't mean it's calling the high of the day. It just means that you need to be aware that you've done this now 3 times intraday. So it can spool the other direction. And many times that sets up a wonderful continuation to go even lower or even go higher. But you have to anticipate that, because I've watched some of my really good streamers, the students are mine. I'm not going to say their name because I don't want to embarrass them. But I've seen them make this mistake. And I don't want to correct them in front of their audience, but hopefully they can hear what I'm saying here and start incorporating it in their analysis. Because the few times that they do it wrong, it's many times because of that element right there, where the market has traded multiple times to take out liquidity 3 times in one direction. Once you get that, you're setting the stage for an intermediate term retracement. Or it could be a complete reversal. And the experience is going to determine what that is going to be for you. But most traders, most of my students don't have that skill set yet, because I haven't taught them until just right now. Okay, so like I said, this is for my son. And since he gave the authorization and wants to have the progress and process of what he's learned and how it's being done, you're all getting to see that. So you're all eavesdropping still, okay? You're not entitled to any of this information. So I'm telling him, and I'm talking to him saying, look, my students, you think I'm talking to you. You, Montel, you, Brian, you, Carl. You think I'm talking to you, Melissa, because I'm talking to my son and I have genuine concern and sincerity behind what I'm saying. But I also know that there are people here that are listening and you want to learn. So I'm cognizant of that. I know that, but I'm really speaking to my son, and that's why it feels genuine. But if it has this very first fair value gap here and we trade below it, what's your mindset going to be? Switch to inversion. Wonderful. So first threshold is, where's the midpoint? That's here, consequent encroachment. Do we want to see it if it's a valid inversion fair value gap? Okay, if it's a valid inversion fair value gap, will it, remember I'm just going to be asking you questions today, will it completely overlap? In other words, will it go below it and come all the way back up and touch the high of the old gap? No. And that's exactly what you want. You want to see it fail to close that in as it goes back up. It's leaving a portion of that candle's low and that candle's high. In other words, it looks like this. That's the portion that didn't close in. You may look at these wicks and it causes confusion. You're like, I don't know what he's looking at. I don't get it. I can't see it. I saw an old student from the first group. I'm not going to say your name, but I mentioned I was trying to learn your language the last live stream, and I didn't do very well. But he mentioned in another live streamer that of all my concepts, the one that he didn't do very well with was a fair value gap. And it's because you don't have all of the rules properly applied to using them in price action. I have held back a lot of stuff because a lot of stuff's going to be in the book. And even with me teaching all this, there's so much more to them that make it a fucking science. Like, I have PhD technical science behind me. Okay, I am a fucking dean of glean, the freak show of fucking precision. And when you see it in these books, you're gonna be like, what the hell? No wonder this fucking, exactly. That's exactly what it's gonna feel like. But when you have it in your own hands and you start implementing it and seeing it, it's like you're waiting. You're waiting for that knock at the door. Hey, we need you to come with us, like what they did with Mr. Armstrong. And he told him the same thing I'm gonna tell him. Fuck you, you can't have my technology. You ain't gonna get it. You ain't gonna get it. This is the closest thing you're going to get to it, okay? So be satisfied with that. But you don't want to see that complete closure, because that's a signature that there's an algorithm saying this should close in, but I'm not going to close it in. And that's a tip-off to entities that you're never going to meet are engaging right then and there. Citadel starts firing. Bang, 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 bang. Starts sending short entries into the marketplace. That doesn't drive price down there. They're speedily rushing to get their fills in before the algorithm spools below that low in this manner, as I indicated before it did so. I'm going to ask you a question. Do you believe when you're watching YouTube and the videos that are being suggested to you, do you believe that there is an algorithm that makes that selection of choices for videos for you to consume? Do you think there's an algorithm that does that, that curates and goes around and collects and saying, this is what I think this person will probably click on, because YouTube will make money when you open it up. They make 40%, if you believe it. They make 40% of every YouTuber's ad revenue. So they're going to do what? They're going to look at what you have been doing. What do you watch? Do you watch all of the certain type of video or genre? Or do you watch one or two videos and you probably watch the first 4 minutes and lose interest and turn it off? And the video is 8 minutes long, but you're not completely consuming it. Any videos you watch the entirety of, that algorithm is saying, okay, this genre, this category of video is what we're going to do. We're going to start pushing that. And its algorithm will go through and see how much watched minutes. And you don't fucking think that the highest minds of this planet that are actively looking to fleece everyone that's willing to step into this casino, that they don't have an algorithm that is going to determine when and what time, how long and how far these prices are going to go up and down? You don't think that that's possible? There's no real one algorithm that controls price. It's the buying and selling. That's what moves price. And the person that said that in the live stream, I faded the motherfucker and caught the big blast off move in the S&P as he said there's no way it was going to take out the high of the day. It's comedy. It is comedy when you see what? People talk like they know what they're talking about, or they have a hard opinion about what you're learning. And when you don't know what you're doing yet, it's very, very influential. It's easy to talk yourself out of this stuff, folks. But you're never going to be able to say, I didn't show it to you before it happened. Explained it in detail, why it should do this or do that. And there ain't nothing you can do. To my beloved student, Andrew's median lines had nothing to do with what I outlined today. Andrew's pitchforks have nothing to do with what I outlined today. With all due respect and adoration and love for you as my student, I'm saying this with utmost respect. What you're trying to do is reach, and there's nothing there for you. Okay, that's not there. Now, we had the market reach up into this inversion fair value gap. It's the first gap inside of 9:30, 10 o'clock. If you're hunting fair value gaps, Caleb, and that's your pattern, the very first one that forms between 9:30 and 10 o'clock, that's the one you want to see, because you're going to get first response off that first presentation. Bang! Hits it, leaves it open, drops. Next candle, open, trades up, rejection block, highest up close in that price swing. Just enough to bump it. There, that's algorithmic. Drops aggressively. I'm walking you through this market right here. I said, okay, when it goes below this, how do you want to see price? Do you want to see it go down below it lethargically? Like really, really slow, dribble, 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 dribble? Or do you want to see it just go below that and treat that like a turtle soup? The Wish version of turtle soup, where it goes below here and they think it's going to go up? Or do you want to see it do what? Sudden rush down to close the gap, or very minimum rush to get to 3/4 of the gap closure. And then I say, you want to see it rush and do it in 2 or 3 candles, quickly, sudden, just like that. It's going to be in the recording when you can go back and listen to it, okay? I didn't waffle. I didn't talk about the other side. I gave you the very specific elements. How it's going to deliver. I'm going to ask you a question, okay? Come in a little bit closer. Listen. Do you think there's an algorithm controlling price? Because I heard on the street that they just changed it and they're attacking smart money concept traders. Woo! Yeah, baby. Keep giving me comedy. I fucking love it. Oh, this is so fucking good. Smart money concept traps, baby. Please make more videos like that. I'll leave comments so you can troll me just to get more ad revenue. Keep doing it. Oh, fuck, that's so good. Okay, all right. I'm sorry. I'm not fucking sorry. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck, I need a break. Give me a drink. Oh, man. Somebody's asses are getting chopped today. Oh, man. I should have sat closer to the kitchen. It's too far of a walk. All right, so when you see it trade up in the inversion fair value gap, that's your proper use of the very first fair value gap. It's changing the state of delivery, just like an order block will, okay? Order block, we don't want to see it go, and it's a bearish order block, we don't want to see it trade above mean threshold. We want to see it dig up into it and then roll over and go lower. Reverse it for bullish order blocks. We do not want to see it go below mean threshold, half of its range. Why? Because the strength is indicated by its inability, its reluctance to get to the furthest extreme. Which is why, again, this is not supply and demand, okay? There are schools of thought that will say a fair value gap is best filled. And I teach that it's not so. You want to see weakness and failures with these PD arrays. The failure for this candle or any subsequent candle to get to the high end of that fair value gap, to close it in other words, to get all the way back to this candle's low is what I'm saying essentially. A perfect redelivery would be this candle or any other candle trading up into and touching the equivalent low of that candle right there, which would be 19,979.25. As we have this, we have 19,977.75. So we fell short of that, right? To the tune of the range between that candle's high and that candle's low. That's exactly what you want to see, which is the confidence factor that was given to me when we were down in here. I said, how do you want to see it deliver? And I walked you through the choices. It can go below that low here. And this is where every troll was jerking off saying, here it is, here's where I'm going to go and go in social media in another person's chat and say, I hear his ICT calling both sides of the marketplace, but now it's even worse. He's given three scenarios, okay? Go back and listen to what I was doing. Do you want to see it go below that low, a little bit short and go higher and reverse? Do you want to see it go below it and just dribble down and go slow? Or do you want to see it go below it and then large candles and speed, just like that? You want to see large candles and do it quickly with speed. That's what price did, okay? That would be Caleb's entry. That's his model. Not because of anything other than knowing that the gap was here. We failed to get to the consequent encroachment of the wick that would have been obvious for it to reach up to. We created a swing low. It traded back to mid gap of the opening range gap, and then rallied just outside of the opening range gap. Then rejection block here from the daily chart. Is that support resistance? I want to ask you another question. Are you seeing support resistance being applied here? Has Elliott ever got off the beach yet? Nope. He's beached. He ain't got his surfboard, his wind sail, his airfoil. Okay, he's not. Unfortunately, he ain't out in the water. He's still watching. Rejection at the rejection block. Trades lower, below the gap. Caleb's school of thought will be, I want to see this gap be overtaken to the downside, and then offer me an opportunity to get short. At what price? He will use this candle's high, 19,973.75, minus one tick. That would be what? 19,973.5. That means all it has to do is book that high. Theoretically, that one tick difference should fill him. But I'm affording him the luxury of seeing anything inside this gap. I gotta wait for Miss Scout. She's in here trying to find her position in her kennel. If you have a dog, you ever see them walk around in a circle like 20 times before they lay down? Do you know why they do that? They have scent glands in between their paws. And what they want to do is they want to keep walking over this place where they're going to lay at until they smell their own scent. And when they smell it, then they'll lay down. But she's having a real good time. We just bought her a brand new blanket. See what you get here? Extra, no cost. She's distracting me, so I have to give her a chance because it's going to, there we go. So the rejection block, we trade above that. We did get the midpoint of the gap. So if we go above the opening range gap here and then come back in, the net low is going to be suspect. So if it's going to take that low out, then we go to 3/4 gap closure and then full gap closure. We also had new day opening gap high and low inside of the opening range gap, that blue shaded area. This is a fucking masterclass, isn't it? Like, seriously, tell me where you see this stuff in a book to this degree. Explain before it happens. Like, think about it. Like, isn't it fun? Hit the thumbs up if you think this is fun and you're engaged and you're learning and you're seeing the details of it, why it's doing certain things. It's not enough to see a fair value gap and think, oh, I know how to do that. You have to have logic. You have to be able to frame narrative, seeing what price is likely to do because of a logic that's placed behind it. And guess what that logic is leaning on? It stems from the understanding of an algorithm that many will say does not exist. So let me ask you a question, because I said today we're going to be proposing some questions to you. If there is no algorithm, isn't it basically saying a greater feat of mind reading is being accomplished by me, that I can read the minds of every buyer and seller? You never really thought about it like that, have you? Either I am the greatest mentalist in the history of the world, okay, and I can read the minds like Professor Xavier, okay? I'm sitting in here and I'm looking around the whole world and I'm scanning everybody's fucking brain and I can see what everybody's doing, buying and selling, and I'm reading their minds. I can't do that, folks. That doesn't work. That's not real. ESP ain't a real thing. But there is an algorithm, and there's somebody out there that knows what makes it movements higher and lower, when it ticks, when it talks, when it stops, and when it rocks. I know his name. I know where he lives. I know his social security number. How about that? I'm in the know. I know the guy. I know that guy. I know him. Wish I could introduce you to him. I wish you could meet him face to face. I really wish you could. But this is going to have to be enough. So he would take that trade based on that logic. His stop would have to be above consequent encroachment of this wick. Now, why that? Why not the high of that? because we already had this low, we drop down, immediate rebalance, then it drops. So for someone that is a little bit more scared, or you don't trust that type of stop loss placement, you can use the high, that's fine. But he's going to have this as another frame of reference. He can use the midpoint of that wick and just a tick above that, because it's not going to go back up there. If it were to stop him out right there, then I would use this level here to instruct him to go long. Then it would be reclaimed bullish fair value gap. To get to that midpoint here on that wick changes the whole classification of this being an inversion fair value gap. So he has a rule-based idea that he can learn, not that he needs to do it right away, because he will not be allowed to take 2 trades. He takes 1 trade, that's it. 1 and done. Fail or profit. And whatever the outcome is, that's what it is. Give me 1 second here. I'm gonna wet my whistle. I'm probably gonna need till like 11:15. Okay. I knew he'd start making long, but it won't be long, I promise. Long would be like 6 hours. But the placement of the entry, I explained to you, 1 tick below this candle's high, because I want to make sure he gets filled. And he's affording himself the drawdown up to half of this wick plus 1 tick. That's his stop out, okay? If we wouldn't have had this immediate rebalance, then his stop would have to be above there, okay? Simple, very simple guidance, okay? Very rule-based, very specific. It's not wishy-washy. It's continuous logic that stems from what I've already talked about, where the stop placement is for a fair value gap anyway, but I'm augmenting it to fit him and how he can keep his risk smaller. Not that it affords him more than 1 contract, because he can only trade with 1 contract, okay? He will be starting with micros, because I want to see him implementing it there. And as long as he's consistently doing that, then after a month of doing it there, then he's going to be permitted to trade it with 1 standard lot or contract of NASDAQ. He will not be trading ES. I want him to trade the NASDAQ. Not because there's more advantages over it. Everything I'm teaching here works in ES. Everything I'm teaching here works in Forex too, okay? I just don't want to be messing around with Forex right now. So many things going on with the dollar. There's a de-dollarization, whether you like it or not. That's what's happening. I told you in the Twitter Spaces last year, all the nations that's doing what they're doing was going to do what they're doing. I told you what the headlines of the newspaper were going to be last summer. It's happening in front of you. And all of that's working towards removing the global reserve status of the dollar. Like, it's on its last legs. So I don't want to be in a grocery market in that climate, okay? So you can clearly see that you can make all the money you ever want trading 1 index, okay? Gold is going to keep going up, because especially if we have a war event thing pop off over there in the Middle East, we'll probably see $3,200 on gold, maybe $3,500 by Valentine's Day. But if we get short on that idea, his partials would be here if he has multiple, but he can't, so he has to annotate that. His next one would be 3/4 gap closure. And when I say 3/4 gap, you probably don't, especially for the folks that are not English speaking, it would be this price here. So selling short here, below that low, what will be the next threshold to reach for? It would be the 3/4 of the range that makes that opening range gap. So that could be your partial, okay? And the next would be the new day opening gap high, or somewhere in the vicinity between its low and high. And then if it has been enough time for him to build his equity up, and he has 1.5 times full margin, 1.5 times the full margin for the NASDAQ, each time he can meet that threshold, he can trade 1 more contract. That means he cannot over leverage. It's impossible for him to over leverage. He can only take 1 trade a day. If he loses, he's done. If he makes money, he's done. Dad is calling the shots. So you probably never looked at your trading like that, where you were holding yourself very rigid, saying, I can't let myself do this. You want to be able to be flexible with rules and say, well, ICT said this, but I'm going to do it. ICT says don't trade on Mondays, but this guy says, look at what I made on Monday. Ha ha ha. Show me every Monday. Don't just show the one you did today. Go into your account like I did, my TD Ameritrade account, log into it. Show every single day, every single print, every single broker, every broker statement, every one of them. Do it for 3 months. I bet you won't do it. I bet you won't do it. Anyway, for continuation, if he's afforded himself the amount of equity that he would carry more than one contract, he can then wait to see if he can get below the new day opening gap, which is what we see here, and then wait for what? A retracement. We have a fair value gap, and this fib is not that level. Upper quadrant agreeing with this fair value gap. So we're sweeping above. See, we're sweeping above the new day opening gap. Isn't that what I taught when I started teaching in these lectures for the 2024 mentorship? You want to give the algorithm a chance to move around these levels because there's going to be stops and liquidity, or it will entice traders to chase it. So this type of movement here causes traders to do what? They want to chase it. And if they think they understand fair value gaps, what are they going to do on this little thing right here? They're going to try to buy that right there. And they're going to get their asses handed to them right there. And they're going to walk away thinking what? These fair value gaps don't work. And they're making traps for smart money traders. No, that's an opinion of someone that can't consistently make it work in their hands because they don't have all the information. Which if I've said this, I've only introduced the concepts. I've only introduced them. There's so much depth to these things, when to use them, when not to use them. And I'm proving that I'm the only real McCoy with them, which proves it's not somebody else's logic, is it? Because if it's something that's been rebranded and renamed, we'll go to that source and just go right to what they wrote about in their books and just parrot that stuff out. And it should match what I'm doing, right? But it won't. And it won't be able to match up to it either. It won't live up to the precision elements. You won't see it. So we have that old volume imbalance. Key levels, upper quadrant, consequent encroachment, which is this red line here, lower quadrant, and then the low of it. New day opening gap. We want to see it do what? Sweep above it. And then provide a means of going short. How can we key off of that? Fair value gap, 3/4, sweeps above, we're in a premium. Where's it go? Sell side, drops down. What is this? Sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency. So would you look at this frame of reference right here, annotating that low to that high and extend that out in time? Would you do that? You would if you didn't know how to do fair value gaps properly. What is this? What is that? Inversion fair value gap. You're going to see buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency here. When you're in a market that's going lower, you want to see buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiencies be used as future inversion fair value gaps. When I was on Twitter Spaces and I was saying, you want to note this fair value gap and label it inversion fair value gap. And then at a later time, it trades up into it and it repels away from it. And everybody's like, how the fuck did he call that inversion fair value gap before it was an inversion? Because I know what I'm doing. You're listening to the author, folks. I mean, I don't know how else to make it plainer for you. So if you know this logic, you can then, once you wait for them to form, Caleb, you extend them forward. When they agree with another reference point, something else, it cannot be one singular PD array. Minimum 2. 3, you got a lead pipe cinch trade then. What's this red line right here? It's consequent encroachment of the old daily volume imbalance. What's it touching right there? That level. That's also part of this inversion fair value gap. See that? I laughed so hard I gave myself a sore throat. Good. Maybe your ass will shut up. Nope. I'm going to make a long one tomorrow. So, Market sells off. Short-term sell side, minor sell side liquidity pool, basically, and trades down. We have this low, all part of August 20th, new day opening gap. And we have this low. So we have 1, 2, 3 levels that retail is going to see that as what? What does retail see in that? They don't see the new day opening gap unless they're familiar with my concepts, but they're seeing a low, and a low. So technically they're going to view that as a support level, okay? I don't see that as a support level. I see that as a means of, okay, like a barrier to breach, okay, to break through it. Like the door said, break on through to the other side. So we're getting a little close to lunchtime macro. So I would like to see it do, if it's going to do it quickly. And then we can attack maybe the new day opening gap here in this high. If it takes that low out, I would like to see that run for the lunch macro. Lunch macro, again, for those that are wondering what that is, the market tends to retrace against the underlying direction that has transpired that morning session. Obviously, I think everybody can agree that it's been dropping since this morning. So this morning we've had trailed stop losses. And then what you want to do is, if we take these lows out, we'll just make it easy. Say these lows are taken out to the downside. And then the lunch macro starts between 11:30 and ends at 1:30. It does not mean there has to be a retracement. You want to look for the opportunity for it to happen. What you do is, you at that time at 11:30, if you see something that is potentially setting up the retracement for the lunch macro, a macro is a short list of directives that is a code, is a script. The algorithm will start running to opposing liquidity, okay? About to lose my voice, Lord help me. Somebody out there praying, please let him lose his voice, please, he talks too much. This high, if we go below us, this would be the first high you get to that has to be post 10 o'clock. So here's 10 o'clock. So you would use that as a beginning point. Go to the right, and every high, here, that one, but then we made this high, and then we made this high. So I would use this high as the lunch macro. That's where the market would draw for a retracement during the 11:30 to 1:30 retracement. It does not mean that at 11:30, it's just going to start going up and go right to that level. There's other things that you have to factor in, which is why it annoys me when people go out and they try to teach something, because you don't know what you're looking for. These are all casual introductions. And then because you're going to be looking at price, studying them, looking at how it behaved in the past, you'll develop pattern recognition. You'll see things that repeat, and you'll make a log of that. And then you'll start seeing them in real time at the time when they generally form. And you'll know, oh, it's probably going to do this because it generally does this very thing. And if you add to it the long-winded diatribe that I give in these lectures, that's the meat. That's the real sauce. That's the stuff that helps you trust what you're messing around with and studying. You're going to hear me in your own head say all the things you've heard me say today in other lectures, if you've taken notes and you've wrote it down. And it's a lot. I understand it's a lot. But what do you think profitable long-term consistently trading is? It's not a one-hit wonder, go to a workshop, listen to 20-year-olds call themselves chairmen, and all right, now we're all going to own the world. That's not how it works. It's a lot of work in the chart. It's a lot of boring logging, a lot of just capturing information. So that way you have a baseline to evaluate what you're observing in price. How do you behave? What do you think? What do you feel when you're watching price action? And you're going to watch how that gradually moves towards all the things you were worried about initially. I need to learn this. If I learn this, then I figure it out. Or if I don't learn this, I'm never going to be able to be successful. And you're going to see that you're going to have incremental progress. Small little baby steps that will eventually show enough improvement in a very short time. 1 month, you'll know right away that this stuff is working for you. Now, it doesn't mean you go in and you take profitable trades. This means that you're seeing profits right when they're happening, where they're going to go to next. And you got to watch that for months. So that way you get real bored with it. And where you're able to see where the setups form. Oh, yeah, I was going to take a buy there or a short here, and I watched it, and it didn't go down to a level that would have stopped me based on the rules that ICT's teaching. So I've done that for 3 months. So now I can start doing walk forward with a demo. And then you do 3 months of that. Only that. 1 trade a day, whether it's profitable or not. If it's profitable, you're done. If you lose, you're done. You let it sit on it, sleep on it. Because you got to get real comfortable taking a loss. Because every trader takes losses. Every single trader takes loss. And every single trade you open up, it's a losing trade until you trade your way out of it. Think about it. Every single trade that any trader opens up, it's immediately a losing trade that has to be traded out profitably, or you'll lose. You'll go into it with a realized loss. So if you accept the fact going into this that you are eventually going to lose trades, and there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean you can't be profitable. It doesn't mean you're not a good trader. It doesn't mean that you have to have a high yielding strike rate. You don't have to have 90% strike rate. You can be profitable with 50%. You can be profitable with 35% accurate. There's the rundown we were talking about, running those relative equal lows. It's just like every time I say something, I can't keep a secret. If I say something, it just spreads, and all of a sudden the CME just says, fuck it. You know, ICT wants it to go down there. They said, might as well just do it now. There it is, it's done. So what I'm interested in, does it accelerate after taking the next candle, bump the low, or maybe consequent correction on the new day opening gap, and then run that low right there? If I was making the market for NQ, I would do that. And I wouldn't take it higher before it did that. But that's just me. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. But in my head, that was what I just thought. And I just thought out loud so that we can kind of get a feel for it. But look at the reaction off of this gap here. And it's the low of what? The old, stale. I gotta stop. I have to get serious, okay? I got to get more professional. Look at that. Look, now, if it's going to go that far, look at the next new day opening gap down here at August 21st. What's the chances it can at least tap into that? Just for shits and giggles. Can it do it? Can it do it? I don't know. Do you need it to do that? If you were short and you were looking for a partial, do you need my invitation to take partials? I know some of you are already short. If you're not taking profits, some right here, you're full. Take something off right now. But the fair value gap here is also a rejection block. See that up close candle? And what? It's the low of that stale, old daily volume imbalance. That you never would have had that level on there prior to that daily volume imbalance being outlined last Tuesday on August 13th. August 13th. How many times has it used that area? Multiple times. Multiple times it's used it. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, and then we're going to do a quick review of yesterday's trades, okay? Because you're probably wondering, what's those little blue boxes here, these little things? That's got to be an indicator. You know, no indicators required. But do you believe that they're targeting my concepts? Do you believe the market makers are targeting smart money concepts, my life's work? That's my stuff. If anybody says smart money concepts or SMC, what you're saying is it's my stuff. It's my lectures. It's my teachings. It's my concepts. I codified these things. I did. Me, Michael Joe Huddleston, I did that. That's not me bragging. I'm reminding all you asshats that have worked very hard to hide my name behind your bullshit mentorships, which were parroting me. Everything I taught in the 2016, the 2017 private mentorship, and every lecture that I did for free, they're not even on my YouTube channel anymore because they're not that good. I don't like the presentations of them because I wasn't that good at making videos then. It's cringy. I don't like it. But my production level of those videos were not on the same level that I did later on. So, but there's a lot of people out there that have those videos. They have them on like their Google Drives and whatnot. And unfortunately, some people still try to sell them because they think that they're vintage, and you're not going to learn anything better in them that I didn't go crazy with in detail with everything that's on my YouTube channel now. So you honestly should never, ever, ever pay for anything ICT. You shouldn't, because I've literally given it to all of you for free. And it's expensive because it's going to take you a lot of time to learn it. And I wasn't making it longer for the sake of making it longer. I wish I could have just did it in a 5-minute video and be done. Like I would rather be out doing something else. I really would. I have a lot of hobbies that I want to do, and my kids, they're all adults now. I'd like to be able to go, just take off and go. I'd like to see it stab down there and hit that new day opening gap on August 21st. I'd like to see it go boom real quick and be done. I'm waiting to see if it'll do it, because then I can go into the discussion about yesterday's trades. But so it's a reminder. I know it sounds, a little laboring hearing me say it again, but I just know if I was able to sit in a lecture like this when I was 20 years old, first getting involved in this stuff, if I would have watched someone outline this stuff and explain the logic behind it, because I was a computer programmer from 6th grade. I was making my own video games, simple stuff like Hangman and stuff. I coded that stuff with basic language. Basic. That was the language we were learning in mathematics then. And I stayed after school every single day with the math teacher's approval to use the computer. And I went to the library and I bought books from Walden Books in the mall, in Golden Ring Mall, that I would take a cab with my own money I earned from moving picnic tables with my grandfather. I poured myself into it. And I had a technical mindset, highly critical, very analytical. And if someone, when I was 20 years old, would have had this level of aptitude, understanding, foresight, and knowledge, proving conceptually that this is what is behaving behind the scenes. This is what you're looking for. This is the things that price will generally do. I don't need it to be all the time. You don't need it to be all the time. It's just like when you get a flat tire and you miss a day's work. Are you going to quit your job? No. Does it make your job unprofitable to maintain because you couldn't get to work on time because you got sick? No. That's a loss. Your stop got hit. You got margin call with a trade that you put too much leverage on getting to work, speeding that day, and you hit a curb and you blew the tie rod. Tie rod's tore up. You got to get out of tire. You missed day's work. Guess what? You got a margin call. So what are you going to do? You're going to put more money in the account because you want to trade. Well, same thing. You're going to go back to work. You're going to go to work. That's how you make your bread. That's how you make your money. That's how you take care of your family and yourself. Well, trading needs to be the same way. And when you have the perspective that I'm teaching, it literally gives you confidence that is on another level. Sometimes, and it's generally with the young men, it's overconfidence. Because they hear me talk, they hear me hype up, the students, because you need to be cheerleaded in the beginning. You do, because it's very, very technical stuff. It's dry. And I try to break it up with some of the things and feelings I had going. Like when I'm talking to you live, as I'm saying certain things, I have memories because I journaled for years. And the things that I used to make a big deal about and I thought were paramount and tantamount to me, I have to do this or it won't work ever. And I discovered that was the silliest, the stupidest things I was putting too much emphasis on. And the greater lessons were the things I didn't even know I needed to learn and were a byproduct of going through the motions of doing it the right way. And I didn't know what the right way was until 6 years later. 6 years later, I had discovered that I was making it harder for myself, demanding more than what I had already done, which is crazy. When you have this perspective, okay, you don't have any fear of it ever stopping in the future. You don't have any fear of missing the next trade. You don't have any fear of, I better be in front of the charts tomorrow because I might miss a move. It removes all that. Because if you know in your heart of hearts that these markets are controlled and they're rigged, and there's nothing to be ashamed of by saying that. Like there's a stigma around there. Oh, you're one of those ICT cult members. There is no algorithm. Everybody has the same invitation. Mr. Volume Profile, Mr. VSA, which is bullshit too, by the way. A guy left a comment. I used to troll a guy, I can't even think of his name now. He's on YouTube. He's on YouTube. Oh, maybe he is on YouTube. I think he did. Yeah, he did have YouTube videos up at the time. When I was back on Baby Pips, there was a guy on there that he was trying to be like the big cock of the walk on Baby Pips. I didn't realize it at the time. I just knew that shit he was saying was bullshit. He did some kind of thread or two on baby pips. It was around VSA and volume stuff. It's all done. But I started teaching what I'm teaching.